I wonder if I can get away with just showing Kat's poses the entire video. Yeah, okay, this isn't gonna work.
Now that's comedy.
So reading through the comments on the last video, a lot of people were saying this was definitely not a forgotten game. How could it be when Sony gave it a remaster, an anime OVA, and a sequel as well? Yes, that was the case years ago. As in, I'm talking about current year. You know, the year where even after my video, PlayStation tweeted out hip new covers of their beloved franchises, but conveniently ignored Gravity Rush. Oh, I'm sure the Wipeout fans were over the moon at this. And then afterwards at an expo in France, there was a quiz where they showed a character on screen and people had to guess who it was. And not one person knew that this was Kat from Gravity Rush. You know, the expo in France, the place that heavily inspired the game's language and art direction. So yes, I understand back in the day this game wasn't forgotten, but in the years after the sequel's release, Sony really has been doing everything they can to forget about old Kat. But to any newcomers, Gravity Rush is a niche series about a girl who can defy said physics law, filled with a charming world and cast of characters, about always standing up for the underdog. When the underdog is your own fan base, well, let's just say,
thank you, Sony.
But okay, Gravity Rush 2, the sequel to the Vita game, which I have done a video on about over here. Now in the lead up to this, there was an anime OVA released on YouTube to bridge the story between the two games, because as I mentioned, it never really was meant to be split up like this. The anime itself was okay, it's 3D, and it was done in that style where Japan likes to skip on the frames to make it seem 2D, but it doesn't really flow as nicely as other 3D anime I know they can make. The first half is a nice story about Kat and food, while the other leads directly into the sequel, as due to some events, Kat, Raven, and Sid all get ripped away from their homeland of hecking Hexaville. So begins the story for Gravity Rush 2. And I did mention this in the other video, I actually didn't finish the first game when I played it on the Vita, but even then I bought this one at launch. However, once again, I didn't finish it on my first playthrough. It's kind of like with Tales of Berseria, where they had the unfortunate timing of being the first games released in one of the best gaming years, meaning a lot of people just didn't have time for it. But then now, I beat it 3 times. Yes, I really love Gravity Rush 2. But okay, let's dive right on in.
And hang on.
What happened to the blonde waifu? We Bioshock now? With first person movement? Are you sure this is the right game? But don't fret, it's just our adorably dumb protagonist Kat in the suit, as they are down here with a mining group digging up for gems. Also Sid is here, we can't seem to get rid of him.
Shut!
Meow.
The two were picked up by the group after being stranded due to the events in the anime. Raven, however, is nowhere to be seen. So after some uncharted running away, they meet the head of the Banga miners, Lisa. Now if you haven't watched the OVA, it might be confusing why they are miles from home and Kat suddenly in diving gear, sleeping with a bird. So even though the miners saved them, they don't believe Kat when she says she can control gravity. I mean, even I have trouble believing that. But well, it's true, because she can only do this with her pet cat Dusty. You know, the galaxy brain cat which has conveniently disappeared. Well, okay, I guess we can just walk on our filthy human feet. Now Kat is still Kat, in that she really likes to help others, as one of the miners named Cece has gone missing and we go onto the rocks to find her. However, these bad creatures from the first game, the Nevi, reappear. They seriously won't stay dead, but with great timing, our Kat comes to save the day. Yay! Lisa thanks us and finally believes our story, because we can fly. So this is where you get the tutorial on the controls, where it's very similar to the first one. You know, press R1 to levitate, then again to move forward, and again to stop. I guess the whole Dusty saying,
Alright, I'm about to head out,
was to teach new players on the mechanics. However, you don't have all your abilities unlocked. Instead, you can level them up through the gems you collect. And by the way, I really love the whole James Bond aesthetic to the menus. Now, since the miners see us as some sort of a superhero, they ask us to help with their mining. because I mean, of course, if you have the ability to fly, people are gonna take advantage of that. So down we go into this beautiful forest-like place. Hey, you can really tell they made this solely on the PS4 this time. The game as a whole looks insanely better than the first one, with the lighting and particle effects. And to mine the gems, you pretty much gotta make Cat kick the big green balls with her pointy shoes. These areas become a recurring theme in the game, where you have to complete mini objectives given to you by the magic iPad. And doing so often teaches you a new move. Cat, now with a hella stack of gems, brings them to the miners, and we see why they needed so many, because they were payments to this other company the group owed. However, the company, through some sneakiness, tells us that they are fake and we have to double our payment. Cat is like, oh hell no, I ain't having that, and challenges them to mini-games, where if we win, they will get off the mining group's back. One of the games is to fly around hitting these props, then some hand-to-hand combat. This is to teach you on the combat where it's the same button mash and dodge roll. God damn it. And while saving the mining group, we can then head with them to the big city. And holy moly, it's a big place. So the way it's constructed is that you have these many islands scattered about horizontally and vertically. Yes, there is no loading screen and you can fly between them, although it does take quite a while. Also, yes, a feature in the first game, now expanded upon, we can now wear many outfits, like Anime Girl or... Best game, 10 out of 10. So now that the city opens up, you get so many things to do. On the minimap you can see people to talk to, or side quests where they have you doing things like delivering newspapers, or have Cat run around delivering flyers. I wonder what this one says. How oddly specific. The minigames this time actually feel different compared to the first game, with each area giving you a fun NPC to work for. And doing this, you will kinda notice that the higher the islands go, the richer the people are, with these uber mega mansions on their own islands. The middle is where the shopping, shipping district sorta is, while down below are the slums. The game actually does use the class system a lot to tell the stories of the people, and actually does tackle a lot of themes similar to our real world. I mean, one mission given to you by the rich is having you tail people in the slums because the rich believe that they are a violent group. Also, I'll get into this more later, but yes, there is a camera mode, and the game actually does make you use it to go sneakily in and follow the people on the bottom slum area. However, it seems like Cat was a bit too obvious with her spying and fell into their ambush. However, Cat finds that this is some sort of misunderstanding. They aren't bad guys, they are only doing what they can to get by, and unsurprisingly, it's the rich people and the military who are the baddies, with them coming barging in to demolish the whole entire island for redevelopment. Cat, as the goody-goody, says, "No you," and proceeds to attack the bad guys by flinging their soldiers at each other. Okay, so I mentioned this in the other video where I talked about the combat. It's pretty similar here. However, one big improvement, at least for me, is the stasis mechanic, where you can pick up objects to fling away. I know a lot of critics said they had trouble with the combat in the game, as the kicking doesn't really do that much damage initially. But, hello? Just use the stasis? Where you get to fling objects and other people at the bad guys? It really does make the combat incredibly easy if you're in an area with a ton of debris. But yeah, it can kinda get hard then when there's nothing left to fling. So, well, the military ain't that great, as they actually had found and captured Raven, Cat's, friend, and are mind controlling her with this mask. But after a little cat fight, we break the mask and she joins up with us. Raven, of course, as the incredibly angry but attractive gravity user, wants to get revenge on the military by sneaking into their base. And man, for a game that lets you fly around to your heart's content, yeah, it kinda sucks when they shove these stealth mechanics going, no, don't you dare start flying, young lady. Well, at least we get to see Cat sing in a dress. Aww. Okay, so I kinda have been paraphrasing the story a bit and cutting out huge chunks here and there, because honestly, I really just want this to be as spoiler-free as possible. It is such a sight to behold watching the story unfold and where it takes Cat next. But one area I do want to touch upon is where you get the floating mechanic. So by flicking the touchpad on the PS4 controller, you get these white markings on Cat's outfit. This now allows Cat to sort of skate, as she is extremely light and can now super jump. When you think about it, it's kinda weird the game offers this. I mean, you can just fly anywhere, but if you can get the hang of it, Cat can travel really fast. And personally, I love this whole mechanic and area so much. It sort of reminds you of being underwater, and I don't know, I just love floating around, okay? Plus later on you get other mechanics with the touchpad, like a super heavy one that makes Cat extremely chunky, but slows down her kicks to do more damage. So then, with all that I've shown you, hopefully you can see that this game is really fun to play. And for me, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I've mentioned how flying is one of my most beloved mechanics in games, or gameplay that lets you move really fluidly, and this game is the best example of that. It's just so fun and relaxing flying between these beautifully designed worlds. But how's this for a segue? What isn't relaxing or calming about the game has to do with Sony and the camera mode. So the trend for PS4 games was to release with a camera mode so that you can make the share button not look as dumb at launch. And in Gravity Rush 2, you can take selfies or tripod shots with many filters and poses for Cat, and also the ability to spawn objects on screen. Now, this is a single player game, but a really neat thing it did to help build a community had to do with the photos. So throughout the worlds, you can randomly find these treasure chests, and inside they give you gems or talismans which you can use to boost Cat's abilities. However, with online, you can then take a picture of said chest and upload it. This gives you another currency called Dusty tokens, and other players can then use that image for context on where the chest is. If they find it, you then get more tokens. It's such an ingenious way to have a community interaction in the game, because firstly, the world is so amazing to comb through, and secondly was that Cat can move in literally any direction, meaning the chest would be hidden in such tricky spots. So it was really cool getting an image and trying to find out where the chest actually was. Although yes, some people did troll with the images and they weren't that helpful. But then with these Dusty tokens, you could actually get special objects, furniture for your room, poses for Cat, or that casual outfit for her. So this worked as intended. Till 1 year after the game's release. Yes, just 1 year. Sony is like, you know the game we published and barely marketed as opposed to other games we publish? Yeah, well, the sales are actually kinda bad. Somehow. And even though we sell the most consoles in the entire industry, and are literally swimming in cash, we should screw over the niche fans of the game by shutting down the server. And boy howdy, this did not go down well in the community. Now granted, people rallied and got the hashtag Don't Forget Gravity Rush spread around, actually delaying the server shutdown a few months to allow people to get the item, which if I remember correctly was the push I needed to replay and finish the game, which I'm very thankful for. But as of now, it's gone. There is no way for new players to ever get these items or even access the leaderboards, because the game actually ranked you on some speed minigames and you could race the ghost of other players. And yeah, that was that. The Sony published game now very publicly shown that even though there was immense backlash to the decision to ruin the fun for a niche audience, even though with such small features, Sony was like, yeah, nah, we can't afford it. I mean, even if you don't care about the leaderboards or the cosmetics, the actual interaction of using other players' photos was such a neat idea, and it's just a shame that a company of their size couldn't cater to its fans. So yeah, now I guess you'll never get to use these poses for Cat because Sony doesn't want you to. Also, I want to give special thanks to Gravity Rush Central on Twitter. I actually only followed them back in 2017 because they would retweet some really good fan art, but their news reporting on this actually alerted to me of this issue back in the day, and I guess because of them, they actually helped me finish the game before the server shut down. Now, on a lighter tone, I just want to loosely go back to the story again, because after this whole military thing, you can freely explore so many areas, which was then surprising through some crazy Nevi invasion, with Cat and Raven traveling through this maze, which by the way, was easily the worst part of the game. Trying to move through here was a mess, but they end up in the center and defeat a huge monster. This causes a giant explosion, once again ripping Raven away from Cat, leaving our blondie floating in space alone. But don't worry, good old Cyanea and Chubster, you know the gods from the first game, come in to free us and snap us back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Did he just say the same joke again? And guess what? Cat is back in hecking Hexaville. So yeah, we can now explore the entirety of the first game's world with our new abilities and movement, with plenty of side quests to do. But story-wise, it seems that due to our absence, a new blonde waifu has come in and can also gravity shift, but plays up the superhero role a lot, making it a brand of sorts. But I gotta say that this whole section where they try to make Cat go into hecking Hexaville, it kinda felt a bit rushed, like the creators said, oh, we really need to get Cat back back into this town. But how else can we do it? Ah yes, the blue-haired girl and the chubby man. Now from here onwards is where the story gets a bit more spoilery, but don't worry, I'll keep it incredibly brief and out of context. Because apart from the stuff you do in hecking Hexaville, you also get to go into another world and fight a red and black cat, then defeat a disgusting huge boss. Now here the game does a fake credit sequence, and I really want to point this out because like with Nier, a lot of people didn't actually realize there is still 1/3 left to the story. If you haven't flown up this giant tower, then you haven't beaten the game. And well, if you get to the top, you suddenly see... So through this you learn a lot about Kat's backstory and how she ended up down below, and well, to end the game you also fight this incredibly hard boss. Yeah, I wonder how many people never knew this was in the game. Now, you may be thinking, gee, Kat sure is a great design character, but I prefer Raven. Because you may have certain kinks that we won't discuss here, but I'm talking to you, okay? So specifically you, yes you. Well, good news to you, buddy. Because we have the Raven DLC, which takes place between the first game and the anime. It takes you through parts of Raven's childhood, but also has you rescuing the children of the Ark, because hopefully you haven't forgotten about the chicken rocket. And I highly recommend it after the main story, because not only do you get a compelling narrative, but also new combat with Raven and some really challenging bosses. So then, that's pretty much Gravity Rush 2. I apologize if I sounded a bit over the place and didn't really dive deep into the story like the first video. This game means a lot to me, and is easily in my top 10 favorite games of all time. It's one of the few where I can just sit down and go, yeah, I want to play this again for the umpteenth time. Gravity Rush 2 has such a visually appealing world, great music, and amazing characters, from their design to their personality. I just really like how the townspeople don't feel like the ones in other games, being more mean and selfish here, which balances out the protagonist. Kat is one of my favorite characters, as even though she may be a bit gullible, her heart is always in the right place. It's honestly a shame that this series sold so little. You can tell the creative team behind this had so much fun making it. I mean, just check out what the character designer is doing on Twitter. It really does feel like a big passion project from the team who made the first few Silent Hill games, but I guess the sales weren't what Sony wanted. But hopefully with this video, and like with the first one, I might have convinced a few more of you to try out one of the best games on the PS4. It actually does go on sale quite a bit, and I wouldn't say you need the first game to understand what happens here, but it does help explain the story. Even then, just for the gameplay of flying around, you will truly never get to experience this in another game, because, well, the creator did say they did everything they could with the PS4, pushing it to its limits, and that Gravity Rush 3 would have to be on the PS5, but that was before the sales were announced, and there were rumors that they are doing another IP instead. Regardless, I'll still be intrigued as to what they make because they clearly put a lot of passion into their work, and hopefully somewhere down the line you can get a Gravity Rush 3. So Kat, what do you want to say to end the video? Well said.
Trojan, RamZaes, Magnum, Sheik!